Alrighty, well, it's time for another marathon, and this time I thought I would do something a little more enjoyable than the Twilight movies. Now, when I say that, I don't mean to to discredit anyone's taste in movies. I mean, I admit that I am guilty of that sometimes, but but the Twilight movies were just such a miserable experience. And like I said, the only way I could possibly enjoy those movies is if I was watching the riff tracks. But I'm not talking about Twilight anymore. I'm talking about Pirates of the Caribbean. And where better place to start than the first movie? Now, as a lot of people might know, Pirates of the Caribbean was originally a ride. It was one of Walt Disney's many rides, and in the early 2000s, it was turned into a movie by director Gore Verbinski, who cast Johnny Depp in the role of a peculiar pirate named Captain Jack Sparrow. Now, everyone thought that this movie would flop. Everyone thought that this movie would be the dumbest idea ever because really around that time pirate movies were not doing very well. I mean, they flopped. They weren't very well acted. They weren't very well written. I mean, in the 90s, you had things. In the 80s and 90s, you had things like Cutthroat Island. Whenever you would get a pirate movie after a long interval, it would turn out to suck, basically. I mean, I can only think of I can't think of any exceptions off the top of my head, but I'm sure there are some. But the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, Curse of the Black Pearl, basically blew everyone away as being a very rousing adventure that was eons ahead of what they had predicted. Johnny Depp even nabbed an Oscar nomination for his portrayal of Captain Jack Sparrow. People had never seen anything like that before. People had never, or at least if they had, they didn't remember it. And it set up this kind of historically fictional world where because really who doesn't want to be a pirate? I mean, pirates sailed around in the lawless ocean with like on their ships. They sang sea shanties. They had swashbuckling adventures and conflicts with other pirates. Granted, that is a very embellished and glorified interpretation of it, but it seems like the pirate movies. I'm not just talking about the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, but it seems like pirate movies in general have more often than not got away with more embellishment and glorification than something like I don't know, a samurai flick or I don't know. Westerns are kind of fall into that same category where people generally like westerns that are fun. But without any further delay, I guess I should give my opinion on this movie. Okay, the basic premise is that there's this ship called the Black Pearl, and Captain Jack Sparrow was originally in charge of this ship before he was mutinied upon and cast out by his first mate, Captain Barbossa, who was played by Geoffrey Rush. And eventually, Barbossa leads the other pirates to this Aztec treasure, which turns out to be cursed. 882 gold Aztec coins, are in this chest, and this chest turns out to have terrible curse laid upon it because whoever takes these coins, they basically turn into undead pirates because they can't feel anything, they can't die, they can't taste anything. So it's a very miserable experience for these pirates, and basically the only way to lift the curse is to not only return all the coins to the chest, but also have a blood sample by everyone who was responsible for the for the for the theft. And every single one of the pirates has returned all but one of the Aztec gold pieces, and that gold piece falls into the hands of the governor of Port Royal's daughter, Elizabeth Swan, who was played by Keira Knightley. And Captain Jack, upon visiting Port Royal, he finds that the local blacksmith, Will Turner, played by Orlando Bloom, is the son of Bootstrap Bill Turner, who is basically the last piece of the puzzle. He is the last pirate whose blood is needed for the curse. Now, ordinarily the other pirates would get Bootstrap Bill's blood themselves, but they kind of killed him for his speaking out against Jack Sparrow's mutiny, the mutiny on Jack Sparrow. So really, their only hope is to get the blood of Orlando Bloom's character. So that's the basic premise. And all the while, Jack is he claims to be helping Will save Elizabeth from the pirates because she eventually gets kidnapped. But all the while, he seems to have his own agenda, which is to get his ship back, get the Black Pearl back. Because it's apparently the fastest ship in the Caribbean. Okay, so you have a setup here for a grand pirate adventure, and honestly, when I look back at this Pirates movie, as well as the other Pirates of the Caribbean movies, I don't really like them that much. This is probably the best, but even then, my basic opinion is it's okay, it's fine, it's decent. Because Johnny Depp is a lot of fun. He's very entertaining as Jack Sparrow. He's a very refreshing kind of pirate. He has a lot of charisma. You never really know which side he's on. And that makes for an interesting dynamic with Orlando Bloom's character. Now, Orlando Bloom, I know he's got this kind of hate following. Not quite to the extent of, say, Shia LaBeouf or Keanu Reeves, but I know that there are a lot of people who are not necessarily fans of Orlando Bloom. I don't mind Orlando Bloom. I think he can be very good, if put in the right role. I mean, if he, and even roles where really he has no business being in, I still think he's fine. Like I really liked him in Lord of the Rings. He was very well cast as Legolas the elf, because you really got the sense that he was a lot more agile and graceful and elf-like than all the rest of the Fellowship. In these Pirates movies, he's all right. Even though his character is kind of bland and boring. He tries, and the writing tries to make him and Keira Knightley seem. The writers try to make their love story interesting. They try to make them play the reasonable straight man, but to Johnny Depp's Jack Sparrow and Geoffrey Rush's Captain Barbossa. But but honestly, it just comes off as them just dragging the fun down. Um, a lot of the time, Orlando Bloom really takes the joy out of a lot of scenes, and so does Keira Knightley. And I really like Keira Knightley. Like I said, it's not that Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley are bad actors, because they're not. They're really good actors, but I don't know what it is. It's just that in fact they just don't fit in as well as I think the director and the casting director were hoping they would. And that partially has to do with the way these parts are written. I admit that. But Orlando Bloom, I liked him in Kingdom of Heaven. I liked him in the recent Hobbit movie, Desolation of Smaug. Probably the worst performance I've seen him give is the Three Musketeers. But even then, I wasn't bored by him. Because Three Musketeers, he was fun. He was the best part about Three Musketeers. Oh my God, he was so funny in that. Oh wow. But I digress. So Orlando Bloom, he tries to be a very soulful, very determined, very dashing young hero, but basically throughout the entire movie, the audience would rather watch Johnny Depp, and for good reason. Johnny Depp, you're kind of gradually given his backstory, and kind of gradually given glimpses into what his true motivations are throughout the movie, and he's honestly more interesting than Orlando Bloom's character. Really, the only interesting aspect of Orlando Bloom's character is the fact that he's descended from a pirate. There's that has nothing to do with his personality. That does nothing to make him more charming. He just diminishes the whole rousing adventure aspect. But with that said, he's not completely useless. He's not. I mean, he can hold his own in a fight. He does contribute to the plot, and in fact, he's one of the things that moves the plot forward in later movies. But I'll get to that. So Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley, they're all right, but the writing just limits them. Geoffrey Rush is honestly right up there with Johnny Depp as just being really fun to watch. Geoffrey Rush, he simultaneously makes a really good bad guy, while at the same time being really goofy and kind of cartoonish. Basically, right off of the theme park ride. I mean, he's watching this guy. You're thinking to himself, this must be a role that he has always wanted to play. Geoffrey Rush must have always wanted to play a pirate, because he does it so well. He perfectly fits the tone of the movie, and the dynamic that he has going with Depp, again, is more interesting than the relationship between Depp and Bloom. So Johnny Depp and Geoffrey Rush are very good in the movie. And some of the supporting actors, like Jack Davenport and Jonathan Pryce, they kind of fall into that same boat with Orlando Bloom in that they try to be serious, and I know the movie was trying to establish them as basically foils for the pirates because they are members of the Royal Navy. They are very high-ranking figures in Port Royal. But they aren't any fun to watch, and it's not that they give bad performances. Like I said, they do try. I can't really go so far as to say that I dislike Jack Davenport in this movie. I can't really go so far as to say that I completely dislike Jonathan Pryce in this movie, but really, their characters are. I just think they should have been a little bit more lighthearted. It seems like it seems like they're in a different movie. It seems like they were directed as though they were in a more serious movie than I think this was intended to be. But basically that about covers the performances, because Kevin McNally is fun. I mean, he plays Jack Sparrow's new first mate. He's fun, and I'm glad he sticks around for the rest of the series, because you really do get the sense that he's one of the few people that Jack Sparrow would not, in good faith, betray for his own ends, because he. It's odd, because on one hand he's very nice, he's very believable as this brother in arms, but at the same time he really fits into that kind of pirate persona that he's got going on. So yeah, I like Kevin McNally, I like Johnny Depp, I like Captain Barbo, I like Geoffrey Rush as Captain Barbossa, but yeah, it's just the people who are playing it straight are what really drag this movie down, and it's weird, because a lot of the time in things like Mel Brooks movies, and movies movies like that, the straight guy and how straight that they play it are sometimes one of the most interesting parts of the movie, one of the most entertaining parts. Or like Chris Hemsworth in the Thor movies. Just how completely straight that he is playing that Thor part, despite the potential ridiculousness of the material. Really helps you to come on board for the premise of Thor. But here it just doesn't work. Here I think the tone of some actors is just too far away from the tone of other actors. I think there is too much separation. I think some of the performances could have fit the overall fun atmosphere that the movie was going for a little better. But that's not the biggest problem with this movie. This movie, like I said, the premise is good. The premise makes for a very high flying pirate's adventure. But the problem with this is it's too long. And I've been called a hypocrite many times, namely by my brother, when I say that a movie is too long, because he says, well, you like The Lord of the Rings, or you like The Hobbit. And basically I respond by saying, okay, The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit actually had more story going on. They had deeper stories, they had more characters to juggle. The characters I thought were more interesting than the Pirates movies. And the Pirates movies, a large part of them are meant to be comedic. Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit are basically these epic adventures with very high stakes. With The Hobbit kind of embracing that kind of swashbuckling nature a little bit more, appropriately so, because of the more lighthearted source material. But these pirate movies, the plot just seems needlessly. I'm mainly going by the first one here, but the plot, it seems like there's always something else there to prolong the movie and prolong the story and keep the characters from achieving their goals. Because I honestly could have shortened this movie by about half an hour, 40 minutes. Because, okay, here's where I would have ended this movie. Here's what I would have done to end this movie. Once they rescue Keira Knightley from the island with all the Aztec gold, and the pirates are chasing after them, I would have waited for the pirates to catch them until until evening, when the moon was out, um, and then I would have had the movie basically have its climax in the form of a naval battle on the high seas, where basically the skeleton pirates were defeated by the Black Pearl crew, and then once they actually won, I I would have had the British Royal Navy catch up to Jack Sparrow, and then I would have had the rescue scene at the end where he escapes the gallows and gets back the Black Pearl. Now, but and then upon reaching the Aztec Islands earlier, I would have had Jack Sparrow secretly put Orlando Bloom's blood on the coin and put the coin in the chest, and then the undead pirates would not have been undead anymore, and that would have rendered them able to be defeated by the Black Pearl crew in the aforementioned naval battle. So that's where I would have ended the movie, right there. But instead, the Black Pearl crew gets defeated and captured. They take Orlando Bloom back to the Aztec Islands. They maroon Jack Sparrow and Elizabeth Swann on the desert islands that Jack Sparrow was previously marooned on. And they have them basically screw around on there they basically have them dance around on there and drink rum for about 10-20 minutes, and then they have them get rescued by the Royal Navy, and then they have to convince the Royal Navy to go and help Will, and then there's this 5 or 10 minute setup where they're kind of sneaking up on the pirates, and Jack Sparrow is negotiating this deal with Barbossa, and then they get to the final battle. Then they finally feel the need to wrap the movie up. It did not have to be that long, because with the Lord of the Rings and Dances with Wolves and other long movies like that, and Braveheart, you got the sense that the movie was justified in being that long. You were never going, okay, I was amused before, I was amused by these pirate antics before, but I'm burned out now. I've had enough. I mean, you got the sense that the story was justified in being that long. You got the sense that the characters and the plot needed that long to develop and be told. But the pirate movies, and here's another thing I don't get. This could very well be a nitpick in the grand scheme of things, but when the Black Pearl is chasing after the ship of the good pirates, the Jack Sparrow's new crew, they catch up to them in a matter of minutes. And I know the Black Pearl is supposed to be this really fast ship, but you couldn't have had it be a little bit more realistic, because to my understanding, naval battles around that time and naval chases were a lot more long-term than some movies make them out to be, and this is hardly a unique trait to these Pirates of the Caribbean movies. But honestly, a movie that I enjoyed more than this, that actually kind of stuck to that historical accuracy, was Master and Commander: The Far Side of the World with Russell Crowe. Now, like I said, this could very well be a nitpick. I understand that Master and Commander was by comparison a much more serious movie, a much more realistic movie. It was much more grounded in in realism. And the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, they are Disney movies. They are not supposed to be taken that seriously. So I guess I have to cut the movie just that little bit of slack. But I have to admit, watching it, I was a little perplexed. Like no less than 5 minutes. Like I was watching this, going like no less than 5 minutes ago, the Black Pearl was like, I don't know, 500 feet behind them, and now it's like right on their tail. So I don't know, that kind of took me out of it a little bit. But if you were not bothered by that, I understand. That could very well just be me. But yeah, these Pirates of the Caribbean movies, this one in particular, all have plenty of moments of high flying, lighthearted pirate fun. But for the most part, a lot of it is kind of stretched out too long. It goes on for too long. It's like a joke. If the joke is told over and over and over again, it gets old after a while. Now, granted, actually, I was about to say, granted, these movies don't repeat jokes. These movies don't reuse jokes all that much, but it turns out they do. Certain ones, anyway. This I guess I really shouldn't be too hard on this movie, especially compared to the sequels, which I have numerous problems with. But I suppose I should rate this movie on its own. As on its own, even though I said, and I still stand by my opinion that it's too long, I did have fun with this movie. This movie, for the most part, is a decent adventure flick. You will not be blown away by the depth of these characters. You will not. Some of the performances will kind of seem out of place, in terms of just the overall atmosphere that this movie is going for. But the premise is strong. The plot you can follow. The acting can be very good. It doesn't feel convoluted. It does not feel. Yeah, it's just an okay swashbuckling flick. It's just a perfectly satisfying pirate flick. I could think of a lot of other pirate flicks that I would rather watch that are not nearly as long. I don't mean to keep harping on that, but this movie is about 2.5 hours, and like I said, when the ships catch up to each other in a matter of minutes, it does get a little. I was kind of wondering, does it really need to be this long? But anyway, I was fairly entertained, and I think if you were just looking for good old fashioned pirate fun with a handful of fun performances and pirate action that is shot very well, like you have naval combat, you have sword fights, you have backstabbings, you have maroons, you have marooning characters on a desert island. I think you will get your fix. I think you will enjoy yourself in this movie. But of course, they had to make sequels. Yeah, like I said, if you were at all an action movie fan, if you were at all an adventure movie fan, if you were at all a Pirates fan, then you will probably enjoy this movie. I don't really think there's anything in this movie that really betrays your. I don't think there's really anything in this movie that insults you. A lot of the comedy does work. A lot of the like I said, a lot of the action scenes are shot very well. There's a distinct shortage of shaky cam, which in this day and age was actually pretty refreshing.